Hello, my fellow project managers, those of you who are interested in the PMI-ACP exam. It's a pleasure to be presenting to you the new ACP content outline. The ACP content outline prior to this was published in 2014. And my goodness, that is 10 years of using a content outline to run an exam, especially when the world of Agile is changing so rapidly. So I'm really excited to present this to you, and it's been a long time coming, and the exam is changing on the 8th, as PMI have announced. We'll see how they're able to follow through on that. PMI has a history of announcing dates and not following through with the dates, just keeping it 100. But let's jump into the outline review. This is coming to you on behalf of agileprinciple.com. Those of you looking to take the exam, you can get training and coaching from agileprinciple.com. But let's jump into this comparative analysis of the PMI-ACP exam. The 2014 outline was broken into 7 domains: Agile principles and mindset, value-driven delivery, stakeholder engagement, team performance, adaptive planning, problem detection and resolution, and continuous improvement. But when you take a look at the new one, it's very distilled just into 4 areas. They've taken almost half of the domains away. So if you want to do a comparative analysis, you can see mindset, which used to be Agile principles and mindset, is pretty much this one. And this is now a whopping 28% of the exam compared to the 16% that had before. And I've always said that the ACP exam anyway is a mindset exam. It's all about how you think. Being agile is all about starting off with the right thoughts and really mastering the agile principles and the values. So I'm very happy that this is reflecting what the exam has always been anyway. It's always been largely mindset. I remember when I took my exam in 2016, I was quite astonished at the lack of technical agile questions like the TDDs, the XPs, and things like that were not very prominent. What was prominent was mindset. And I'm really excited to see that. The next thing that they have taken out of areas such as stakeholder engagement and team performance is the area of leadership. Again, something I've always been a fan of. Leadership is what everything rests on. My mentor, John Maxwell, would say, everything rises and falls on leadership, and it's true. And I'm glad that this reflects it, because you can have the best software, the best hardware, and you could have poor leadership. You could even have a great team, but if there's poor leadership, they're not going to be able to deliver to the optimum. So when we talk about leadership in the world of Agile, you do know that we're talking about a self-led, self-managed, self-organized team. And it just makes sense for everyone to have that leadership posture, be it the product owner, the scrum master, the developers. Everyone should have that posture, regardless the model you're using, regardless the framework you're using, right? So leadership trumps everything. So I'm excited to see that. The next one that they've taken away from, the continuous improvement of product mentioned there, and a few other areas where you will be able to detect products, it's been distilled down to 19% of the exam. And you do remember from the world of Agile frameworks, product or potentially shippable increments or value-driven delivery, that whole topic, it revolves around product. When we talk about the minimum viable product, MMP, MMF, and things like that, this area is one to look out for in those topics. And last but not least, we've got delivery. And if you take a look at the previous one, we had value-driven delivery, and that was 20% of the exam. Now, delivery is 28% of the exam. So when you boil Agile down, my friends, to be quite honest, not a lot has changed in this world. It's always been what it has been. There's a lot of new software, a lot of new frameworks, some good, some bad, some absolutely ugly, which unfortunately some have made their way into being a text in this outline. But jokes apart, when you boil Agile down, it's all starting off with the mindset, the values, the principles. And then everything else is gravy. Everything else. You don't even need to practice any of the so-called popular frameworks, and nothing against frameworks, they're helpful, but you don't even need to practice any specific framework. You can be very agnostic and you can blend frameworks, like you can be like the Karate Kid of Agile, the Mr. Miyagi video where that kid was taking all those moves, wax the floor, paint the fence, sand the floor, whatever, wax on, wax off, whatever he was saying, he took all those ideas and he was able to fluidly blend them when rubber met road. So when you're in the real world, you ain't going to be saying, oh, what am I to do? Am I Scrum? Am I Kanban? Am I XP? Am I Chris? No. You get what I'm saying? So as an agile leader, an agile leader is an agile leader is an agile leader, regardless of framework, regardless of JIRAs or the confluences, and nothing against those. It's just that we need to keep it 100. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Let's move on. So here's a summary of the key differences. Consolidation of the domains from 7 to 4, emphasizing mindset and leadership, which excites me. The weight distribution, there's a greater focus on mindset and delivery, focus on leadership. It's now been elevated because everything rises and falls on leadership, like I said. Expanded eligibility, recognizes prior learning and third-party certifications. I'm going to show you that. And the interactive exam format introduces multiple responses, drag and drop, and broader scope, aligns better with the needs of modern Agile. For lack of a better word, Agile is Agile. So moving on here, this presentation I'm going to show you is going to highlight the major differences from 2014 to 2024. So we've already taken a look at that high-level outline from 2014, 2024. We've just got 4 areas, and I'm going to walk you through all the areas before we get done. Again, the weight distribution, I've walked you through that. You saw the breakdown for yourself, and a huge emphasis on mindset, 28%, and delivery, 28%, which is 56%. Coming to the Agile mindset and principles, in 2014, that was upfront, was mentioned specifically, and I quite like the fact that the principles were mentioned. Now they're kind of lost in translation. You got to dig to say, okay, what do you mean by mindset? Because when you boil it down, the mindset, it stems from the values and the principles, right? But as we walk through the specific chapters in this outline, you're going to see what PMI has brought to the front, which is very good to emphasize some of those minor points, which I'm going to show you. Leadership is now a central domain, focusing on team empowerment, coaching, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution. The tools and techniques, there's been an expanded section there with some examples. And when it comes to the eligibility, stay tuned because I am going to show you what is new in that world of eligibility. Okay. If you have any questions as we go through the content, feel free to drop them in. I know for those of you in the United States, some of you are just waking up. Some folks still in bed at this time. I know because it's just 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock for some of you. But let's jump into the actual outline. I'm going to share the outline with you right now. And you see what PMI has been up to in the skunk works. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at the new content outline. Right off the bat, I quite like the appealing look, the earth tones. Very nice, very easy on the eye, PMI. So well done there. All right. I also like the gold colors that are used. Being a bit of an art aficionado, I like the presentation of the outline. It looks a lot less laborious, PMI. So well done there. All right. Here's the table one more time. You see the mindset and the delivery front and center. Leadership also quite robust, and product just as it should be. This is a very good breakdown by PMI. I quite agree with the proportion. The domains, tasks, and enablers model is used by the PMI. The PMI did the JTA to come away with what is important in the world of Agile for the test takers. So let's jump straight into domain 1. For those of you that haven't taken a look at the any PMI outline, PMI breaks their outlines into domains, and there's a task for, different tasks for each domain, and then we have enablers. But let's take a read very quick. At the top level here, it says Agile practitioners should have a deep understanding of the Agile mindset and principles. and the ability to apply them in practice. They should be able to create an environment that fosters innovation, experimentation, and continuous learning. Additionally, they should be able to promote collaboration and teamwork, establish a shared vision and working agreements, and develop high performing teams. They should be able to use retrospective findings to improve the team and break down silos. Finally, Agile practitioners should be able to evaluate the team's understanding of Agile and tailor the approach accordingly, as well as identify the appropriate inter-team coordination approach. Again, this is something that excites me about this new one because in time past, you really didn't have the breakdown as explicit as this in the beginning. So I like the opening, and then we get into the tasks. This is the holy grail of Agile. You got to experiment early, right? And that's why we use things like the minimum viable products. We want to build something, get it into the hands of the customer, get some feedback, put it back into production. And, in the world of Agile, we talk about incremental and iterative, two things, right? Task 2, embrace the Agile mindset, use Agile values and principles, talks about the Stacy model, the Sinafin model, and other things here, which were not emphasized prior. So that's embrace the Agile mindset, promote collaborative team environment. Sounds very familiar to other exams from the PMI, just makes sense, right? For collaboration, build transparency, break down those silos. When you have a co-located team, co-located in mindset, most importantly, things go a lot quicker and easier. So building that transparency. In the world of Agile, we're not into all that percent complete stuff because we have work done in iterations and in sprints. So we tend to use things like burn charts or, when we talk about giving status to management, that doesn't really work the same way in Agile as it does in Predictive. In Predictive, we do a whole lot of reports, right? Whole lot of charts, whole lot of graphs and stuff. But in the world of Agile, it's different because we've got, most companies do 2-week iterations, some even less. So there's a quick turnaround and, we ain't got time to be looking at big old reports. So the reporting is very agile. We use information radiators and things like that. Task 5, foster psychological safety. This is huge. This is huge. And this goes even beyond the world of Agile because in a lot of companies, people don't feel safe. We talk about Maslow's hierarchy, the Maslow's pyramid, and what's at the bottom is the physiological, then safety is number 2. That safety is what we're talking about here, right? Safety, psychological safety is different from physical safety, but they're both safety. And a lot of people don't feel safe at work. They're in an environment with carrot and sticks, and we don't want that. So this is where we're emphasizing to have a no blame game culture, encouraging dialogue and stuff like that. Number 6, shorten feedback loops. The quicker, the shorter, the better. So use tools and techniques to shorten feedback, design thinking, lean startup, and things like that. Number 7, embrace change. Promote a growth mindset to respond to change. Embrace process adaptation by responding to changing requirements and priorities. Okay. Again, this is agnostic. I'm quite pleased that the PMI has kept this agnostic, at least in this first domain, and this is exactly how it needs to be. Let's go to domain 2, leadership. Agile practitioners should possess the necessary skills and knowledge to effectively lead within an Agile team. This includes a deep understanding of Agile principles and methodologies, and the ability to create a collaborative team environment that fosters innovation, learning, and growth. They should also be able to apply principles of systems thinking to classify scenarios and identify the importance of risks of each classification. Additionally, they should be able to interpret the output of Agile suitability tools and integrate Agile models based on need. Other key skills include the ability to establish team vision and working agreements, form and develop high-performing teams, use retrospective findings to improve the team, and use collaboration practices to break down silos. They should be committed to the team's decisions, even in disagreement, and be able to evaluate the team's understanding of Agile to tailor the approach. PMI, great job. I like the introductions. The introductions just bring it home. They make it more solid, and they help people understand what exactly PMI is talking about here. Task 1, empower teams. Establish an environment of trust. motivate team members, coach and mentor, promote collective ownership, recognize differences between training, coaching, and mentoring. So, training is purely sharing of knowledge. Mentoring is when you tell someone what you advise them to do based on your own experience, when you are guiding them in a way, a very close way, where you're pretty much giving them the blueprint, the roadmap. But coaching is different. Coaching is where you have a client, and client doesn't mean they're paying. It just means that they're the person you're working with in a coaching environment. And with a client, the answer always lies with the client. The answer doesn't lie with you, the coach. It lies with the client. So coaching, mentoring, and training are different. Training is sharing knowledge. Mentoring is guiding, giving very specific guidelines in some instances. Coaching, you don't do that. You don't give the guidelines. You let the person being coached get the way out of themselves. In other words, you ask pregnant questions, loaded questions that will help them mine the information, the data, the rationalization themselves, and come to an understanding of what works best. So that's quite interesting. They've got that there. I'm very excited about that, being someone who emphasizes the difference between all three. Task two, facilitate problem resolution. Just makes sense, right? So if you haven't picked up the DIGCIV book, DIGCIV, it helps you with problem resolution. It's a 6-step model. I wrote the book DIGCIV, and just having that mindset, I can see that helping here as well. Number three, promote knowledge sharing. Create an environment to capture and share knowledge. So in the world of Agile, to be quite honest, the way we work is different from lessons learned. I would rather they had used retrospectives, but lessons learned can also be looked at quite generally. But when you hear lessons learned, it's typically shared across the board, across the organization. That's not to say that retrospectives don't yield some information that can be shared, but our default is not to share what happens in the retrospective. That's for the team, except it's going to affect the wider organization. We say Agile Vegas, whatever happens in the retrospective stays there. Task four, promote Agile mindset principles and practices. So again, you got to go to agileprinciple.com. We cover this in a lot of detail. We really hone in on that mindset at agileprinciple.com. All right, task five, promote shared vision and purpose. That's a no-brainer. And you do that in various ways, through discussion, through vision casting, road mapping, and so on. There's so many points in which you can do that. And task six, facilitate conflict management. Identify the root cause and level of the conflict and promote a collaborative approach to solve conflict. That sounds eerily similar to the PMP exam, task one under people. But anyway, in the world of Agile, we obviously are not going to solve conflict for people because we have hopefully a mature team, but we do need to get in front of conflict when we see it disrupting the team, seeing it being ugly. As a servant leader, as a scrum master, that is what we should do. All right, domain three, product, 19%. All right, Agile practitioner should have a deep understanding of Agile frameworks, I wish you would say. And you could say some are methodologies, but we won't get into that today. But not limited to Scrum, Kanban, and Lean. So we often say Scrum is a framework, and that's been highly debated in the Agile community, but it really is a framework when you boil it down. Kanban, heavy framework as well. And when I say heavy, I don't mean by weight. I just mean it's through and through a framework, just by virtue of the start where you are and, the remove and replace kind of mindset there, and Lean. So, I would rather say frameworks, to be honest. Okay, they should have experience in product development, building product roadmaps, creating user stories, managing product backlogs. They should have foundational technical knowledge to be able to work closely with development teams to understand technical requirements and constraints. Practitioners should have excellent communication skills and be able to effectively communicate with stakeholders, including customers, development teams, and executives. The candidate should have strong leadership skills and be able to lead cross-functional teams to deliver high-quality products. Additionally, they should be committed to continuous learning and be willing to stay up to date with the latest trends and best practices in Agile project and product management and development. So let's take a look at the task here. Number one, refine the product backlog. Oh yes, this is the product owner and similar roles front and center. You got to refine that backlog. And, you might do that in backlog refinement, but you also need to make this a regular daily practice as a product owner. Task 2, manage increments. Ensure the increment is aligned with business priorities. And remember, when you talk about increment, what you delivered in the previous iteration is still part of the future increment. So you got to think of the increment as being prior plus. So it's like N1 plus N2. When you get to sprint 3, it's N1 plus N2 plus N3 and things like that. Demonstrate increments of value for early feedback, things like the minimum viable product, and measure the delivery of value. Task 3, visualize the work. We're talking about information radiators, burn ups, burn downs, and similar. Task 4, manage value delivery. Define what value will look like, sustainability, security, privacy, regulatory compliance. Ensure the value increments are optimized and ensure that the targeted results are achieved. That was a very, very short domain. We only had 4 tasks in that one and just 19% of the exam. Finally, we get to delivery. Says Agile practitioners should have the necessary skills and knowledge to effectively manage and deliver projects and products using Agile approaches. The candidate should have strong communication and collaboration skills to work effectively with cross-functional teams. Experience in Agile project management tools and techniques such as user stories, sprint planning, and retrospectives. Knowledge of Agile development practices such as continuous integration, continuous delivery, and test-driven development. Familiarity with Agile frameworks and methodologies. Now we're talking. I like that. So frameworks and methodologies, let's distinguish them, right? But not limited to Scrum, Kanban, Lean, adaptability, ability to adapt to changing requirements and priorities in a fast-paced environment. Experience in using Agile metrics to measure project progress and success. Seeking early feedback from internal and external customers to ensure alignment with their needs. Managing risks proactively to minimize impact on project and/or product delivery, eliminating waste by focusing on delivering value to the customer, performing continuous improvement to enhance project delivery and team performance, engaging customers throughout the project to ensure their needs are met, optimizing flow by focusing on delivering value quickly and efficiently. In addition, Agile practitioners should also have a strong commitment to continuous learning and improvement, and a passion for delivering high quality products and services to customers. So again, shout out to PMI for the very detailed breakdown intro. That just sets the pace for anyone who's going to read this section. So that's awesome. Task 1, seek early feedback. Just makes sense. The earlier you get feedback, the better. So deliver work in small increments, manage Agile metrics, determine which metrics are appropriate, right? Radiate metrics across the relevant audience with information radiators, review and analyze metrics and use metric insights for decision making. Task 3, manage impediments and risk. In the world of Agile, there's a tendency to not have risk registers, and we've always said you should. We've always said you should closely manage risk beyond just saying, oh, we do all this in our daily scrums and our sprint reviews and our retrospectives. No, you actually need to keep a firmer eye on risk. So we encourage teams to do that, to proactively identify risks. You do know there's a difference between a risk and an impediment, right? A risk is an impediment waiting to happen. An impediment is already happening. We often use the terms impediments, obstacles, and blockers. Impediments slow you down. Obstacles are in your way. You could get around them, go over them. But blockers, they stop you dead in your tracks. You can't move. We refer to all of them together. We just lump them all up as impediments. You might also hear people in the general world refer to them as problems, but you got to manage these. And that's what task 3 is about. You got to monitor and control the risks, the impediments, use lessons learned to avoid risks and impediment recurrence. You got to prioritize those impediments and go after them very aggressively. All right, task 4, recognize and eliminate waste. I often say maximize the muda, because muda is waste. So maximize the muda you cut out. You got to cut out that waste. This is talked about in the Agile Manifesto. It says, maximize the amount of work not done. Simplicity, maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. It's true. You gotta cut out that waste. Waste is ugly. Waste is your enemy. Cut it out. do some value added improvements, visualize the end-to-end flow, value stream mapping, and things like that. Task 5, perform continuous improvements, obtain metrics and feedback to drive continuous improvements, implement improvement actions, evaluate the effectiveness of process improvement. Definitely the 7 wastes in the world of lean, in the world of manufacturing. This will be one for you to read up before your exam. Task 6, actively engage customers. No brainer. If your customer isn't engaged, you're not going to get as much feedback, as much value for yourself as the performing team. All right. So you want to get all that feedback by actively engaging your customers. You got to know what keeps the customers engaged, the kind of things that engage them. So when we talk about Moscow and Kano, those categorization approaches, you got to understand the purpose of categorizing in that way. So you get those things that are near and dear to the customer out first, up front, and you begin to get more engagement and more interaction. Task 7, optimize flow. Limit work in progress at all levels, shield the team from interruptions, use metrics to analyze and improve flow. And when we talk about shielding the team, that's the servant leader. That's, a kind of scrum masterish role. And not to say scrum is used in every agile setting, but we often just talk about the scrum master, but it's really a servant leader posture to shield the team. All right, so here we have tools and techniques. We have a whole lot of them. I'm not going into all of them. I'll just keep it high level. Agile analysis and design, agile estimation, communications, and you can see the sub breakdowns on the right. So a lot of these are things that you might already know. For those of you that are not into the highly technical frameworks and technical practices of Agile, you just got to make sure you know these, like things like wireframes, personas, modeling, learning cycle plan, relative sizing, affinity estimating, planning poker, all that fun stuff, right? You should know those. Communications, PMI is emphasizing EVM here. So it's definitely worth knowing how EVM works. Definitely read their Agile practice guide before the exam. Planning, monitoring, and adapting. Process improvement, which includes Kaizen and the 5 whys, retrospectives, introspectives, product quality, risk management, value prioritization, things like ROI, MPV, IRR, all fair game. As I mentioned prior, MMF, minimum marketable feature, MMP, probably worth knowing as well. MVP, there's Moscow and Kano, as I mentioned earlier. I like the transparency here in PMI showing the knowledge and skills based on this survey, right? Based on the JTA and the surveys they did. You can see over here the respondents, right? The 3 most important leadership skills: problem solving, decision making, emotional intelligence. This is just good to understand PMI's perspective in making these changes. And there we have the 3 most important technical skills: managing risk, providing and incorporating feedback on the process, and quality assurance. It's not to say all the others aren't important, but top 3 are always helpful. 3 most important analytical skills are manage risk, process analysis, and quality assurance. 3 most important people skills: collaboration, team building, and motivation. I love the fact that motivation made it up there. That's awesome. Strategic business management skills, top 3 are strategic planning and alignment, prioritization, and change management. The 3 most important communication skills: feedback, interpersonal communication, thank goodness, and clarity. Okay. Coming over here to the next section, the PMI-ACP eligibility requirements. Here we have the secondary diploma, and that's the base. The professional learning is 28 hours of formal training in Agile practices. As I said in the very beginning, you can get that from agileprinciple.com. 21 hours will be accepted until March 31st, 2025. But beyond that, you're gonna need 28 hours of formal training in Agile practices, frameworks, and methods. Okay, going over to professional Agile experience, you need 2 years of Agile experience in the past 5 years. Okay. And if you have a different route, 1 year Agile experience and degree from a GAC, or 1 year Agile experience, and active third-party Agile certification. So they're recognizing that. And you could also have an active PMP certification, which accounts for the experience being sought. So what this is going to do is going to appeal more to the PMP crowd, and they're going to see that there's a consideration of your PMP, because after all, the PMP does have a fair amount of Agile. So I see what PMI is doing here as a marketing strategy, which is good. That's okay. And if you have a PMP, then it would make sense for you to jump into this, because it's this or this or this or not and. So 2 years of Agile experience, or 1 year of Agile experience from a GAC and degree from a GAC, or 1 year of Agile experience and an active third-party Agile certification. So if you had, for example, the CSM and you have 1 year of Agile experience, then you're eligible to take this test. Or if you just have an active PMP certification. So PMI have broken down that barrier of not being able to take the ACP. This will be a sensible next step for those of you who are PMPs, definitely a lot more appealing than in the past. So very well thought out marketing strategy, and fair, to be quite honest, because when you look at the PMP, it is very heavily Agile these days. So it makes sense to just go to the next level. And that's what I tell a lot of our students. We've had some of our students come through, get PMP, and I tell them the next sensible thing to do is, one, show your Agile abilities by, number one, taking an exam that's a low-hanging fruit, low cost, low risk, like the PSM from Ken Schreiber's company. And after that, you can just jump in here. Or, those who've been able to take the CSM, if you've got the funding for the CSM, which is another certification, the Certified Scrum Master, you could do those. Those are low-hanging fruit ones. So the PSM is harder. The CSM has a lot of great instruction, and that might be a good precursor to you taking the ACP, because, the ACP, high stakes, right? Costs more money. So you got to be aware of that risk as well. It's a 3-hour exam, the 120 questions, 20 of the questions are pre-test questions. All right, I'm about to round up. So if you have any questions, if you're on watching live, the 24th of October, it's 5:38 PST AM and 8:38 AM EST, just to timestamp it. So if you got any questions, my friends, go ahead and ask. As far as the fees, my goodness, can I keep up with PMI's fees? They're always changing. Please visit the website. Visit the website and take a look, because I lose track of their fees sometimes. Okay, any questions? Let me go to the different platforms and take a look. Those of you on Instagram, I see you. Thank you for watching. Those of you on YouTube, always a pleasure. Okay, why don't we take a look at the PMI ACP page just for giggles, all right? Because I know some of you are going to be wondering what the other specifications are for the exam. PMI have given the site a facelift, by the way. So it actually looks very nice. Let's go there very quick. Let's drop that in. Let's take a look. And here we are. Okay, so the exam, the full price of the exam is $495. If you are a member, $435. Yeah, so that's it. So what are you waiting for? If you are a PMP, I want to recommend this as a good next step. But you got to understand, it's not so much a certification, because I've been training this for a few years now, and my buddy Roy has been training this for like forever. So we have a course on agileprinciple.com. A lot of people are ACP certified. Full disclosure, like me, I was ACP certified. Hey, listen close. I was ACP certified and still not confident enough in Agile. I was ACP certified, still not knowledgeable enough. Do you know what I was missing? I was missing the stellar instruction. It's not about the certification. A lot of people, they're certified, But when it comes to distilling Agile down as a practitioner, they can't. They're inept. Or when it comes to teaching others, they can't, but they pass the exam. I was like that, full disclosure. So I really want to make it clear. It's not about the certification alone. That shows, yes, you've taken an exam. But when rubber meets road and you're in the real world, are you truly agile in mind, in action? That's the question. And to get there, it took mentoring and coaching from my mentor, Roy Schilling, who is my co-trainer on agileprinciple.com. So I really want to stress, if you're looking to take the ACP exam, it's not just about passing the exam. It's about having A+ stellar coaching and mentoring from someone who's made all the mistakes. I was CSM certified, I was ACP certified, and still inept. It's not the certification. I can tell you, there are many people running around with certifications, but they ain't agile. They ain't got it. And to got it, you need someone who's made all the mistakes to tell you, hey, don't make the mistakes I did. Or you need someone who really knows how to convey what Agile is all about. Because Agile is not about frameworks. Agile is not about methodologies. Agile is not about the Jiras of this world and the rallies and the confluences and the Trillos. It's not. It's about how you think and act. And you can do all that all by yourself, even without a framework. All right? If you're looking to do this, my friends, again, I want to implore you, I want to encourage you, going down to our website. It's agileprinciple.com. You will get stellar coaching, training, and exposure to what Agile is all about. The ACP is a great exam. I'm really excited what PMI have got going here, especially just seeing the new outline, So we've been through the process of eligibility, talking about the question format, still retained, 120, and it's based on a solid JTA. But again, my friends, you got to go to agileprinciple.com. Highly advise it. This is where we're going to be distilling all of this stuff down, and we're going to help you get to the finish line. Okay? Awesome. Okay, any questions or concerns? I don't see any questions. So I want to say thank you very much for joining me. This is going to be available on LinkedIn and YouTube and everywhere after the fact. So if you have questions, you can always put them in afterwards, okay? I do not see any questions. So let me go ahead and put the links to the ACP page in the chat. And let me also go ahead and remind you of where you can get the coaching and training you need. And let's one more time put the Agile content outline, the PMI-ACP content outline. Let's go ahead and put that in if I'm able to find it. ACP content outline. So you don't have to look for it. And if you are taking the current exam, just remember all of this stuff does not apply to you. What applies to you is the content outline that was published in 2014. Knowing how, I got to say this though, knowing how PMI works, a lot of the questions that will make their way into the new exam are probably featuring as pre-test questions on the current exam. Those of you on Instagram, I'm going to shoot this to you as well. And those of you on YouTube, there you go. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for joining. I wish you all the very best. You take care and bye for now.